All right, guys, what is up? So happy to have you tonight. I've got Scott, the writer and creator of an amazing comic book called Marcus. I'm not going to be doing too many spoilers tonight, but I definitely want to get this out there before 2024 hits so you can pick up your copy. I had the privilege of meeting Scott over at New York City Comic Con and wanted to do this interview with him after seeing how amazing this book is and the different little things that that him and his team have put into this comic. So, here, without further ado, is Scott. How's it going?
Very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, always. So I gotta say, like when you first started talking to me, and I was standing next to David Nakayama, and I heard you talking about this high action military, biblical historical fiction. I was like, what? How are you fitting all of this into a comic? And then I sat down and looked at this comic, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I need to figure out exactly where all of this, like the ideas came from, and then kind of sit down and talk to him and just kind of interview, because a lot of people could come up with a great idea like this and carry out something similar on their own level. So, what made you, first of all, want to do this comic?
Well, thanks for the compliment. I mean, ever since I was a kid, it's always been a childhood dream to have my own comic book, right?
Okay.
As a collector, I think most people would say at some point during your early years, you went, man, I would be so cool to have my own comic book, right?
Yeah.
And all through school, my friend and I, we used to in study hall, we used to make our own stories and just have an ongoing comic and everything. So it was a lot of fun, and that's sort of where it came from. The idea for this story, I mean, it really, I don't even know. Yeah, it's where does inspiration come from? I mean, the
Yeah.
the story, the original, the origin of the story is two Roman centurions, and I had that rolling around in my head, and I had this, kind of a cool story, but I had no way of pulling a thread together to bring it into modern time. A guy that I grew up with, he became a battlefield reporter, and he was embedded with troops in Afghanistan, and he was shot in the face with a an RPG, and
Wow.
he survived it. So it was one of those things where, I mean, as a family friend, I had a lot of, we worried about him and everything else, but as things went on and found out that he was fine, it gave us comfort.
Yeah.
But then he wrote a book about his experience, and I read his book, and it was one of those things where it was like watching all the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle all fall together. And I called him up and I was like, I have an idea and I want to use you in a comic book. And he's like, what do you mean? So it really, once I kind of had him as the reporter, kind of looking into these, who that was the thread that tied everything together and really, brought it into modern times. um
Okay.
so it's historical fiction. I mean, Carmen Gentile is an actual person. There's, part of his story is in this book, which I'm extremely grateful for him for allowing me to share it. Um,
Yeah.
and he also shared with me, some of the videos and things like that we link in the book. Um, and it was just one of those things that it all just came together, and the full story. I can't wait to, we're working on issue 2 now, and I'm really hoping that more people read it. Everybody that's had it has given me nothing but positive feedback, so that's
Yeah.
always a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those books that um it makes you think and it makes you want to know more. So Spider's Lair is here with us tonight. Spider's Lair
Hey,
also
hey,
wrote a
what's
book
up? What's
this
up?
year, so he knows exactly what you've been doing. Um
Oh yeah.
and especially like putting out multiple issues. How many issues are you planning for this book?
Right now we're set at 6. So
Okay.
there's a beginning, there is an end to the story. Um, the end of the story, yeah, we'll just say it's a little ambiguous. It all depends. And when you're dealing with, I've got two immortal Roman centurions. that have been, fighting since the crucifixion. So there's always
Nice.
story, from that long of a history. There's always story that that you can pull if people really like it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other cool
Sounds
things that I
awesome.
thought was really interesting about this book that definitely sparked my interest when you were talking about it was the fact that you put like these um, sounds within the book. What
oh,
was the thought behind that?
well, it was one of those things. I had met. So the book is published through Swolger Publishing. So people that know Reggie Simmons, Reggie collects, his YouTube channel. I met him, several years back when I got back into collecting, and I've kind of been his guy behind the scenes doing like graphic design work
Nice.
for him and stuff. And as he and Doug Bratton began writing they did a smart guide to comic collecting. I said, why don't we put in QR codes that will take people right to the videos that you're referencing, and take them to CGC or take them
That's
to all these
awesome.
different resources. But as part of that, it was sort of an idea that I wanted to use in a comic book, because comic books are, I mean, they're great. They're fantastic, for entertainment. It's two-dimensional, but you can grab people and add a whole nother level of interactivity by just using technology that's out there. So I would like to say that, I'm a groundbreaker in the way that I'm putting this, but honestly, if Marvel or DC, I mean, they can afford to do animation and stuff like that. Adding those little tiny pieces. I mean, I've had people tell me that they've read the story and they've read one part of the story 5, 6 times over and over and over, because they watched it, they read it, and then they watched the video that it gets associated to that particular scene. And they're like, it adds this whole nother level of interactivity and engagement with the story that really
Definitely.
helps, propel it a lot more. So,
Yeah.
there's a couple things I use in there. There's a soundtrack that I put at the very beginning, that people can kind of listen to, sort of what I was listening to when I was coming up with the story for this issue. There will be a different soundtrack for every issue, so it'll be something that keeps going. So it's a shared Spotify playlist. But the videos that Carmen shared with me, we have QR codes, and the QR codes are in the artwork. So it's actually like a label on the back of a soldier's helmet. So when you're looking at it,
Nice.
it's not just sitting right there. You kind of it's hidden in the artwork. So it actually becomes part of the artwork. So when you scan it, it takes you to there's a flashback scene, which is a firefight, and it takes you right to that firefight. And then probably the most important one is the video that Carmen was filming when he was actually shot with the RPG. That's in the book. It's not gross. There's not a bunch of blood or anything like that, but you see everything leading up to it. You hear the whoosh of the rocket, you hear the impact, and then you hear everything that's happening around that. So when you're reading that scene and then you watch the video, it fills in a lot of those pieces that you can, and it's just, I just thought it was something that was a little bit more unique. I do plan on doing that. There's stuff that I'm going to use for every episode, every issue. So it really has a lot of interactivity built into it. So
I've been reading Geiger lately by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, and
yeah,
this book, Marcus, had very similar vibes to that, of like this um, war-esque battle scene and all of that. And like as I'm reading Marcus, I was thinking back to Geiger, and I'm like, God, I wish Geiger had these little videos and these little animations. And I'll never forget when Marvel did the animation to like announce King in Black. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
I like this, that's what comics can like take it to the next level. And I feel like you guys
Yes.
have done
Yeah.
that to really
Oh.
bring the person into the 21st century of reading comics, but also to like bring them into the scene of what is really going on and what was the inspiration or what was the story or the sounds. I mean, like you said with that last video, just being ingrained in the sound of the video as I'm reading it allowed me to feel like I was really there and also feel the emotion of being there.
Mm-hmm.
And like Mike, you're a soldier and a veteran, I should say. So you kind of know like what this has. So I figured you would love this.
Yeah. Well, so I was gonna ask you. So you served, sir? When did you serve?
I was in the Navy in 1987, so I'm an old man. So
Nice.
when I was back,
Don't worry, we won't tell.
Yeah, when I was in the Persian Gulf, it was well before all the other stuff was happening. I always say when I was there, I was giving weapons to the Iraqis and blowing up Kuwaiti oil platforms because that's just what it was.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean, I was in a little after that. I'm thinking what year? Jesus, it was from I want to say 95 to 98. And that's like in the weird that's a weird time because it's like now I'm like I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of people, not fortunate enough for them, but fortunate enough to know these people. I met a lot of people who had Gulf War syndrome, the PTSD they were going through. So I understood all that, and it's real. I mean, like, people don't understand this unless you were there, or like I wasn't there. I got there late, but I was there enough to see my fellow soldiers going through what they went through. And like, yeah, it's just a hard life. Like, people don't understand. Like, that's why I say thank you to every veteran. Thank you, sir, for your service, because people don't understand. Like, this is so important to have a national defense and to be, I mean, it was an honor for me to serve in the military. It was honor and duty. I mean, I didn't come from like a big military family or anybody I can really turn to. I just felt like as a young person, no matter what, I just always felt like I just wanted to do something to help people. I didn't know what it was, exactly what I wanted to do, but I always felt like, you know what, I want to just help people. And this was one of the avenues I found for me, which was like one of the best honorable things that anyone can do for their country. So I always say thank you to all the veterans. And, without any veterans, we wouldn't have any freedom. So everyone who's out there who's living the life however you want to live it, however poor or rich, however hard and soft you think you have your life, listen, we all owe a debt to the people that came and put their lives in defense of this nation before us. So that's what I'm always about, and I support what you're doing, sir. I get your info. I want to get that book for sure because it sounds really good. And yeah, it's just weird. Like when we did a comic a couple months ago. I have it here. This is the comic cover. I might as well show it. It's called Symbiotic, and what we did was we printed this a little different. I came up with this. Well, I'm not sure if I'm the first one that came up with this, but I decided I printed it, with the spine on the other side. So it's a reverse read. It reads like a manga pretty much. So I am thinking about doing hidden things like what you were saying. I love that idea, that concept of putting QR codes in. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, like, just this is a journey, and I just feel like I was actually listening to this old Stan Lee clip that I put into a short today, and he's giving us a speech about don't let anybody dumb talk you out of doing something that you want to do, like to create, and I always say that, like, to everyone. Creativity is part of everything in life. Like, some people it's therapy, some people it's I find like when I was creating things, like I tried to stay away from like reality, but I don't mind like reality based things because there is a lot to be said about creativity and having a section of your, like, a self-insertion kind of, but not really. But it's just like you're trying to communicate with the audience from your experiences, and that's what these stories are about. That's why I think like comics in general touch like so many nerves when it comes to like the traditional audience who grew up with these stories, because I felt like that gave me a lot of morality. I really feel like between that and going to church every Sunday, like these things that you were growing up with, it was traditional. I grew up in the 70s, so we grew up. There was like everybody went to church, everybody worked, everybody was like, doing their thing, little community, everybody knew each other. Like, I don't want to say I came from the safest neighborhood, but it wasn't where, everybody knew you, everybody knew your parents, everybody knew your business, and it was just like one of those small towns. And it was just like one of those places where it wasn't like nothing segregated. I mean, I had black friends, white friends, Hispanic friends. I never thought about it. I had Chinese friends. I just was in like a kind of a melting pot growing up. So when I started to travel in the military, that's when I started really seeing, like people. This is what's weird about the military too, because there's some people who just never gone anywhere. I've never seen anything. I come from New York City, so we've seen New York City's a melting pot. But when you get, you know what I'm saying. So you get to that point where you see somebody, and I've had soldiers tell me like, we never, and I'm not, and they're not saying this in any race. They said, "Oh, you never seen black people in real life," and they were kids from Alabama, but nothing racist about them. They just never interacted with anyone other than people from their small town, and they just felt like so. They just sat there and they felt bad, and we were telling them, "Don't feel bad. I mean, you shouldn't feel bad about experiences you haven't had yet. This is the whole reason why you're here. Now you understand. There's a bigger world than where the little pond you come from." And sometimes you got to step out of your comfort zone to know what kind of a person you really are in the end. And to survive anything you've been through, sir, or anybody that's ever been through any kind of trauma, the fact that you survived that, and you come up on top, start thinking about what you survived, and then think about, how can I put that message out there into the world like you're doing, sir? And that's what you're supposed to do in life. These are all lessons that we're supposed to push out there in the world. And I just say like this, I have so many things I'm going to be writing in the future. It's not even funny, but I just try to think. I just try to think like if I was reading a comic, what would I like to see in a comic? And that's how I try to write, and I try to convey my stories. And I do love military stories for sure. I mean, it's the backbone of everything we had.
It's a really fun medium to explore.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I always. I was watching an interview with Guillermo del Toro, right? So, I mean, he's done some amazing movies, and the visuals in his movies are fantastic. And this reporter said, a lot of people, they didn't like Hellboy or the way it was portrayed and stuff like that. And he looked at the guy and he said, "Listen, I don't make my movies for everybody. They're not for everybody." He goes, "There's going to be a segment of people that really enjoy my movies. They like the story. They like the visuals. They like the way that I'm conveying that. And that's the story is for them. It's not for everybody." So is this story going to be for everybody? I mean, they always say one of the biggest taboos when you're writing is religion. Add anything in religion.
Mm-hmm.
There is a religious tone in the book only because the story of the main character, his name is Marcus. It's after Marcus Longinus, who, if people don't know, he was the Roman centurion that stabbed Christ when he was on the cross with the spear and gave him the fifth wound. But there's part of the legend that says that he was blind in one eye, and when he stabbed Christ, the blood came down into his face and it cured his blindness. But there's also a part of that legend that said that the blood also made him immortal. And
mortal, yes.
It made him immortal because he is to be the first witness to the second coming of Christ. So the spear itself became the legendary Spear of Destiny, which has been used in a million different movies. Latest was the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. They had the Lance of Longinus. That was it. So, I mean, but I've seen that in
that's exactly
in everything. So, I'm taking a piece of that story. I added another Roman centurion. So what Marcus did, he did out of mercy and compassion. And then the antagonist of the story, his name is Cassius. And you see him at the end of the book. He was the one that tortured Christ, and the same, from torturing him, he became immortal as well. So you have the yin and the yang, the black and the white, so, you can't have a good without an evil. So that's where, I don't know why, I don't know where the story just came from. I like to fall down internet holes when I'm doing research and stuff like that. So, that story came about. but you have to constantly innovate. They're always saying that comics are dying and things like that. Adding the
Yeah.
QR codes was my way of saying we can innovate and we can take this two-dimensional,
Yes.
beautiful art form that is both from storytelling and artwork, but we can add a whole nother level to it. You can add a whole nother dimension to comics
Yes.
by doing something, by using the technology that's out there today. I mean, let's face it, kids today, they've got iPads, they're watching YouTube, they're playing video games constantly, they've got all their electronics. You've got to compete with that.
Yep.
So if I was a teacher today, I would not want to have that job, because to get into, attention spans are short. So you've got to find
Yeah, they
another
are.
way to engage them. And if this is a way to do it, Marvel, DC, if you need somebody that comes up with some creative ideas, you can catch me on, DM me on Instagram. I'll be happy to throw out some great ideas for your animators and, how you can integrate those into books. But I think, again, it's innovation. You want to constantly be doing something new and something a little bit different. So.
And when I saw what you were doing, and when I thought about like different things that Marvel and even DC have done over the years to promote books, I've been wondering why they haven't tried this, why they haven't explored that other side. And is it because there's no money in it? Is it because it's too difficult to keep it up? I'm struggling to understand why they just have not even tried to explore it, or have they not even thought about it yet? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I would think, if anything, like. No,
Go ahead,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys. I was gonna say the only thing I would think that I think that would actually be quite easy. I don't know why they want to do that. To put a QR code in, something like that. We gotta talk afterwards. I can see this being a big thing, like, for like, let's just say, for instance, like, I'm reading his comic, he puts a QR code in there, and it has nothing to do with his comic. Now it just goes to like an advertisement or another comic or something like that. I see a good possibility with that, and I don't see why Marvel and DC didn't think about doing this to begin with. I mean,
Marvel did use it. Marvel did use it in the last.
It's an easy thing to do.
Yeah. Marvel did use it in the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus series. They did have QR codes that were in the background, that if you like paused the screen and scanned it, it took you to different places. And I was like, that's great. You used it here, but use it in your books. I mean, your books are there. I mean, it's a printed piece
and the problem
that you
is
can
that
easily go to.
Put it on. Yeah. And you're putting things on like that, and guess what? Like, for the most part, especially if you're putting it on for kids, that's in the background. They're not paying attention to all that. Like, you're trying to get their attention for any couple of seconds that go by. They're not looking for anything, unless you're telling them specifically. And even if that's the case, they're not doing it. Most kids just let things play through. It's like you give them a screen and they become zombies. I go, hello, you still there? Well, but it's at the table. But no, what you're doing is smarter, because it's a still screen. You can see it. It's not like you're gonna miss it. I mean, I would. I mean, if I was gonna do it, I would make it more. I'm not telling you how to do it. Let me tell you, if I was gonna do something like that in the future, I would make it a little harder to find, and I would just let people know. Listen, there's gonna be things in the book that if you look real carefully, you may see something.
I'm working in the background a little bit.
But I do like that concept, and it's a great medium to just like you said, go right to a song. That's awesome, because I am actually on my book Symbiotic. I have this is a 6-part series as well. It's gonna expand it to another 6-part series afterwards, but the initial books are the first 6. And I'm also a musician, so I actually made music for one of my characters, a future character that I have, and the character's called Rage, and Rage is supposed to be like this female musician, like if you could picture like a sexy hot Joan Jett, but a redhead, right? And Rage has this ability to, like, through Rage's through her emotions, control the emotions of the crowd. I will, when I'm doing that character and I'm thinking about that, I would love to do like a QR code for that character, because in all my characters that I have in the books, I also do an origin story. So each book that I'm putting out, book 1 is the Book of Einstein, but this is his origin story, and then this leads to the other 5. But the reason why I wanted to talk about that call also is because I did make music for her. I made a song actually I not only did I make the song and I wrote the song, I have the song composed, I have the lyrics, and I even had my girl sing it. And it's just a like, it's not too long, it's just a little ballad, couple lines, but it's dope. And that's a good idea. I'm thinking I may want to do something
But
like
that's,
that.
I mean,
Like,
that's where you can,
that clip
that's
and put
exposure.
that
You
into a
put that
song.
as a video,
That's
put it
dope.
as a video on YouTube,
Yeah.
and there you go. But like, if you, so
You know, 'cause
here's,
sometimes I forget I also a musician.
yeah,
So let me see.
here's
That's
one of the
dope.
pages, right? So
Wow.
if you look, the QR code is right in the helmet, right?
Yep.
So if you scan
Yes,
that
I see it.
helmet, if you scan that
All
QR
right.
code, it takes you to an
Mm-hmm.
Instagram video of this flashback scene that is happening. So it was,
That's
Carmen
dope.
shared with me, and I was like, that's awesome. Here you go. So we put it right into the book, and that it instantly takes you right to action. That one takes you
Yeah.
right to action. But again, it's one of the, you've got to innovate. It's got to be something different. I mean, the story, I mean, I'm biased, of course. I think I think I wrote a good story. I think it's a compelling story, but adding this extra piece to it, I think it hopefully elevates it a little bit more in as far as interest goes. The soundtrack, everybody was laughing. My friend even told me, he said, so Carmen, after he read the book, he told me the best compliment that he could pay me was that it took him almost 2 weeks to get the whole way through the book, because as he said, the way that we captured what happened to him, he thought that he had put that all behind him. And he
Right.
was like, he goes, I don't know what to say. He goes, it just brought up, feelings and things like that I was not expecting, the way that you captured it in the book. So that it's great that we were able to capture it, but at the same time, I didn't make light of his injuries. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm dealing with some heavy things, and in the second issue,
Yeah.
there is a part where he's dealing with, that injury with post traumatic stress, that you hear, soldiers that were in Afghanistan or Iraq, or that have to deal with this, and you
Mm-hmm.
hear about the 25 soldiers, or at least 25 people that commit suicide a day, and all these
Yep.
different things. There's going to be things and resources that I'm putting in the next issue to deal, to help people, to let people know
Awesome.
you're not alone, that don't let
Good.
that one day that mine went off, or that IED went off, or that you got shot or something. Don't let that one day define you.
Yeah.
It's easy for you to fall down that
Yes.
hole and say, you are the victim, but it's easy to fall down that hole and say, I'm just going to stay here. And it can be a very dark place. And a lot of guys don't come back from that. So,
For sure.
this is a way to say, you're not alone. You are much more. A lot of guys get, some of these guys are dealing with incredible injuries that I have no idea, how I would deal with something like that. But there are so many of them that are so brave, that overcome these things. And, again, I want to try to do this in a very respectful way, but also give it something, a voice that they don't have right now, that a lot of people don't have.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I don't know.
So
I hope to do it. So
I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean.
I
hope
totally
to
get
do
it.
it right. That's all.
It mean,
Yeah, it's
I mean,
heavy
that
stuff, and I
that whole
love that
story. Yeah,
you're
I'm
doing
sorry.
this.
Yeah.
I love that you're doing this. Like,
I
one of the
mean,
things that's been popping up in my feed lately is Till Valhalla Project, and all the stuff that they do.
Yeah.
And I could see like you working with them to kind of use this as a way to help people get to that I'm not going to let this one day define the rest of my life, or define the rest of the life that I'm going to give myself, because there are a ton of soldiers out there and a ton of veterans out there who feel that they can't get over it. I don't come from the biggest family of military background, but like my uncle was in the Air Force. He jokes around and he says he flew a chair for 20 years, but I know he went overseas at a couple points in time during the Gulf War. My cousin is still in the Army Rangers. Like, I have a bunch of family and connections to people who are close, like family, who have seen some stuff overseas or known someone who's seen stuff overseas just being in the military. And I like, my heart goes out to them because it is not easy at all.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
like, this is a perfect way
Yeah.
to get your message of what everything you just said out to a lot of people.
And it's not just, I
Yes.
mean, again, it's not just soldiers too. I mean, my
Yeah.
friend was he was a reporter, you know, embedded
Exactly.
with troops. So, you know, when people think about it, it's not just, I mean, there's the innocent people that are in these areas, but it's people that are doing support work or something like that. You know, a reporter trying to do the same thing. He takes as much, if not more, risk because he's shooting pictures. He's not shooting bullets. You know, so as my friend said, you know, he had a camera on his side. Everybody else, you know, they're sitting there with M16s and other things, and he had a camera. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of people that are in these things that have accidents or suffer, you know, traumatic incidents. And, you know, again, you know, I'm just hoping that a part of this book, a part of this story, maybe gives voice to it, gives some people comfort, or, you know, somebody reads it and says, you know what,
I can
I'm
relate
not
to
going to
that.
let this
Yes.
beat me. So,
What was
Yes.
the hardest
Yeah.
part about writing this book? Or even the series as a whole?
I mean, the series as a whole was, I want to say it was, a lot of it was the dialogue. It was
Okay.
you know, really coming down, because as I was writing it, the only thing I knew was reading comic books, right? So
Yep.
I
Yeah.
started writing it in that way. Page one, panel one. Here's what I'd like to see, and I do have a graphic design background, so I
Okay.
could picture
Okay.
my problem is I'm not a sequential artist. So if I design a character, every time I draw it, it's going to be a little bit different, right? So I can't sequentially
Yeah, I'm the
draw
same
something.
way.
I'm a graphic designer. I make logos, I can make advertisements,
Yes.
I can do posters and things like that. So, you know, I can do those parts of it, but the actual drawing of the book, I can't do. The writing it, so as I
Yeah.
wrote it, it was writing it in a way that probably wasn't the right way. And I have to give a huge shout out to my team, Chase Cowan, who actually drew the book, and Elizabeth Charland, who did the lettering. Uh, Chase really, they're both Chase and Elizabeth are graduates of the Kubert School, so they did a fantastic job in. I mean, Chase brought the images better than I ever imagined the book was going to look. I mean, his style, when I saw his style, he was working on Isolation, which is Doug Bratton's book that's also under Swolger Publishing. And I saw his style and I was like, this is the style that I want for my book, because mine's a little bit harsher story. He has a gritty, you know, I would say a very Capullo-esque type art style. So I thought that he did a fantastic job with the artwork. And Elizabeth, she did an amazing job in lettering the book, taking the words and really having that breath of life, the way she changed. And I had specific things that I wanted to do between Marcus and Cassius to set their, so when you visually look, you can tell something different from their speech pattern, but also from everybody else's. She just did a fantastic job. And both of them had fantastic input. I mean, it was a very collaborative effort. For issue one, I think we did 6 total edits that we went through,
Okay.
because we went from me being extremely verbose down to, yeah, that's not going to fit all those words. That panel is not going to fit all those words. So, really condensing it down so that it fit, but never losing the intent of of what I wanted to have there. So, and there were even, where I had a 3-page, scene, Chase changed it, made it into a single page, which fit extremely well for that flashback scene. And it was, I think we did, they both did a phenomenal job. So they were a fantastic team to work with.
That's awesome. And I noticed that you went through a publishing company. What was it like doing that? Because like every creator that I've ever interviewed and worked with, they've all pretty much been publishing out of their own publishing house. Like Spider's Lair Mike created his own company just to publish his comic book. What was it like going through a third-party publisher?
Well, I mean, like I said, I've been doing a lot of work with Reggie in the background. So when he did the Smart Guide for comic collecting, and I helped do all the layout work for that, and then right at COVID, Doug Bratton came to him with his idea for a comic, and I came to Reggie pretty much at the same time. And Reggie was like, I like both of these, but I've already committed to doing Isolation. So let's do that. Let's work on your book and get it. Cause mine was still a little bit more in the rough stage.
Okay.
We finalized, we fine-tuned the story so that once Isolation was, and we learned a lot with printing Isolation and stuff like that. Reggie is just a phenomenal human being on his own. But working with him, still he's very collaborative. He wants to hear your ideas and stuff like that. He provides ideas, and he's like, listen, this is what I think. If you don't want to change it, that's up to you, and stuff like that. But, working with him it's been very, very helpful. I mean, he's the one that has helped put the team together. He's the one that's, handling a lot of handled a lot of the expenses and things like that. So, we've been doing pretty well with the book. The sales have been going pretty good. We've had some amazing backers on the book. Capcan Comics up in Canada.
Okay.
Blue Chip Comics. Blue Chip Comics did an ad. So Capcan, Blue Chip Comics did an ad. My LCS, Jaff Comics in Bethlehem, they did an ad in the book. And then they also did a store exclusive cover. So this was the store exclusive. Sorry.
Nice.
Wow.
Try to get that there.
That's good.
Take some of the glare
awesome.
off.
That looks nice.
So yeah, that was the.
Oh, I got a copy from you. I want one of those signed, please. And I'll tell you what, I give you one of these signed. What do you say? Hey,
I'll trade you. That sounds good to me. I'll absolutely trade you.
All right, that's a deal.
But if you go to,
okay, we gotta talk afterwards. But I'm gonna send you a nice signed book, certificate, and all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like I haven't done the sales you have. I mean, I've done about. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I done this comic company, like I was thinking about a story only, and I had a couple stories I've been writing for a couple of years. But the symbiotic story is just something that came to me within a year, like about a year and a half ago. I was throwing this idea around to a couple of artists, and like you were saying, your story relates to what I do so much because I'm an artist, but I'm a crappy artist. I'm more like a graphic design artist. Like I could use my graphic design skills and I could create characters, but that's about it. I mean, like I don't try to illustrate, and every time I try to put them in different poses, like you said, I got to a point where I just started making them to the way I wanted them to be just right. Then I found my artist, Waylon Weathers, and he's the one who took what I did originally, and then we came up with that, and that's why I was very happy. And that's my company, which is Symbioverse Comics. And I mean, we sold over 100, 125. I'm up to 145 right now. I sold some over the holidays as well. I mean, yeah, I didn't even know like what I was doing. This whole comic was made by me and Waylon Weathers. So I did everything like as far as editing goes, photo editing, And I didn't do such a great job on it. I feel like I said I was always rough on this book because this is my first time doing it. But that's why right now I'm doing book 2 and taking my time with it, and it's coming out real sweet. And now I know how to do it, and it's so much fun. But I can tell you,
holding your actual printed piece, holding the printed piece, though, that is the most satisfying feeling in the world. When I was at New York Comic Con and Reggie got there with the books,
day I grabbed this, yes.
Oh, I was sitting there. So the funny thing was,
I know the feeling. Yeah,
we got the books, and Reggie, they were supposed to be there on Friday. We didn't get them until Saturday. And as soon as I got the book on Saturday, I had just left Artist Alley, and I had just been at David Mack's booth. And David Mack, I'm a big Daredevil fan, and I really like, David Mack's run on Daredevil. I think is excellent. Frank Miller, David Mack, and the latest Chip Zdarsky run, I think, are the three best Daredevil runs that are out there. And I told him, I was like, as soon as I get my book, I'd love to get it. So I actually have the first copy that I got in my hand. I ran down and gave to David Mack and got a picture with him. So at least I know he got it. Now, if he read it, I have no idea. But I was like, it just, to me, that was the greatest thing in the world to sit there and say, okay, I now have something. And my friend looked at me and he was like, he goes, you do realize from now on, no matter what, you can say that you're a published author. And I was like, yes, I can honestly say that I'm a published author.
The minute you sell one comic, that's it. You're legit. That's it. That's all I was told. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm selling some comics. So, and it's just like the weirdest feeling. Like when I first held my book, I never forget what you're saying. Like I actually literally did like a short on it. Like I went to the printers and I picked them all up, and he just had a fresh one coming right out. He goes, this is like the most mint one I picked for you specifically. I just started filming it, and I was just like, I can't. It's like, for me, I have a daughter. It was just like having a child. That's what I felt like. Wow, this is like I birthed this into the world. Like I created something. You hold it. Like even now, I look at it, and I still am amazed. Like, wow, this came from me. I can't believe this. But I say this to everybody when it comes to creation. Please do it. Don't wait. I mean, like my problem, I think, well, most people's problem is find what inspires you. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever helps you too. And plus, stories like what you're telling is going to relate to people, and it's going to resonate. It's going to help them as well. And that's a good thing.
100%.
And I say it to people, listen, when people ask me, what do you, they ask me, I've been getting this question all the time lately. What do you suggest I do to start a comic book company? How would you start it? I said, this is what you do. Just do it. Like Nike said, don't talk about it. Just start it. That's it. When should I write a comic? Yesterday. Write it whenever you want. I mean, I looked at it like this when I'm sorry, guys.
I was going to say, my biggest regret is waiting as long as I did. I mean, I'm 54 now. I should have wrote. I mean, I've always liked to write. So I who knows what could have happened. I mean, now that I've done this story, I do have another story that I'm working on right now that's going to follow up this one. Mm-hmm. But I shouldn't have waited. Good. I really shouldn't have. I mean, if you have any sort of inkling,
Scott, think about
just go for it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, look, I'm 52, right? And I'm going to say like this to all the youngsters out there. You're talking to 50-something-year-olds right now. Look, it's real simple, Scott. You may not have been able to write 10 years ago based on not going through the experiences you have now. So maybe, just maybe, you wouldn't have been able to do what you're doing now. You see, even with this story that I came up with, it was something that I was writing another comic before this. It's a great story. I'm finishing up that. But it led me into this, and I started thinking, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just do a comic, and let me just try to put it out there. I didn't do any research. I just tried to do the best I can. Like you said, when you're looking at the comic, I was thinking about it from like a comic panel. Okay, this is what I want for this page. This is how I'm going to... I was thinking about it from a narrator's perspective. And I wrote the whole comic based on that third-party narrator. Like the Stan Lee of my universe. That will be me, I guess. And I'm just writing in my mind, like from the narrator's perspective. And I like writing in that. And no, for real, I mean, like it's funny because you want to start like because when you're doing narration the way I did it in the book anyway, I can take this character to do anything. I can make him do anything. Like he can just be a narrator for that book. He can lead it to other things. I have plans for the narrator himself because he may find out he may be the whole god in the whole series. Who knows? But I'm just saying, like, I don't think I would have had the imagination 10 years ago working like I was working and doing like I was doing. I was in the military. I was a police officer. I'm retired now. I'm working in Hollywood. So I'm doing all kinds of craziness now that the ability to have enough money to concentrate on doing what I love and pursuing is something that's a gift. And it's hard for some people to do it. I understand that. It's extremely hard. But you know what?
And that's what
you always got to find a way because there always is a way. There always is a way. If you ever feel like following your dreams, do it. Don't wait. Don't listen to people. I never listened to nobody give me approval or disapproval. I didn't need that. What I needed to do is just talk to myself and prove to myself, what can you do, self? And then self's like, well, we're going to go kick some ass. We're going to kick ass. And that's it. Be confident in yourself, people. And also I was going to say, Scott, is don't remember one thing. I don't know if you realize this or not, but the Silver Age of comics, some of the best comics, we talk about Stan Lee, you're talking about Jack Kirby, you're talking about all of these people that were in their 50s starting. They were starting their careers in their 50s. So I say we at the right age because we could be quite possibly the new Marvel and DC. I think I am. I'll take the Marvel spot. I'll give you the
writing with a lot of experience. Writing with a lot of years of experience. I've done a lot of things wrong in my life, so I guarantee I can write a lot about that. So.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things. That's one of the biggest things is like it comes down to money, experience, and when the inspiration just starts to strike. Like my wife has been working on
that's what
just putting together her ideas for what a book could look like of her past experiences, similar to like a Gilmore Girls-esque, but more of like a fantasy style of that. And she's been sitting down writing. I've been sitting down writing lately, working on more like nonfiction stuff just because I love fiction, but it takes so much time and effort to sit down and write like a whole fiction novel. And I'm like, I'd rather like put some ideas out there to kind of help out people like me. So I'm actually working on writing a book about being nerdy as a teacher and like how much that helps new teachers get to know their students. And like I highly suggest a lot of people to just sit down and write every day that they can, because it allows you to get your thoughts out. It allows you to tell a story, and whether it gets published or not, who gives a shit? Because you're enjoying being able to tell your ideas and your story and all of that. And I don't know, at the end of the day, it's definitely a ton of fun to be able to think and design a world that is yours. And I feel like that's what Marcus kind of does in a very fun way. It has designed this world that has these immortal characters and allows us to kind of dive into their world and completely be engrossed in it on many different levels, especially including the QR codes. Like the one QR code you showed, first time I read it through, I didn't even see it. I was like, there's got to be more QR codes here. And I'm like looking through and reading it. And I'm like, oh, there's one. And I would take a picture of it and watch the video and whatnot that went along with it. And I feel like it made it more rereadable because I wanted to see what I missed. I wanted to experience the same pages in different ways. I felt that doing it with headphones really allowed me to immerse myself even more into it. It's so cool the way that you design this book. And honestly, I mean, the biggest thing that I was curious about, which you kind of answered, was how much creative license did you have going through a third-party publisher, going through a third-party editor? And it seems like you were basically allowed to do what you wanted to do and then like be reined in when you needed to be.
Yeah, I mean,
So
really, you know, Reggie, and he gave me full license to tell the story. You know, we everything that I did, I also cleared with Carmen, even though Carmen basically said, you can use my likeness, you can use my story, anything I can do to help you with the promotion or anything like that with the book, I'm good for. Um, but 100%, it's still my story. It's still the story that I put together. Now we edited, like I said, it was more editing for just the amount of content that I had in there. It edited down and really streamlined it very well so that the first issue gives you that action. It gives you introduction to those characters, and you know, sets that initial stage for the rest of the rest of the series. So I mean, I'm like I said, I'm extremely grateful, you know, for the team and you know their collaboration in it and their input in it. Extremely grateful for Reggie for, you know, backing the project. And you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, continuing and doing more with it. So, and
definitely.
it's, you know, you're a teacher, it's again, my son is going to college. He wants to be a teacher. And, you know, one of the things that I told him, I said, you know, you look at the way they taught 100 years ago, look at a phone from, look at a phone from 20 years ago to a phone today. It's completely different. Look at a computer 20 years ago and look at a computer today, completely different. Look
Yep.
at a classroom from 100 years
Yeah.
ago to a classroom today. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Everything needs to have innovation. Things need to change. So, you know, this is a medium that has been the same for how many years. There's technology out there. Utilize what's out there. I mean,
Definitely.
I'm not the genius that came up with QR codes. I'm just the guy that said, "Hey, I can use this technology in a different way. You
Yeah.
know, I can add something to it."
Yeah.
So as a teacher, you know, I told my son, be a kinetic you know, teach kinetic learning. You know, get these kids interested in something and then, you know, push them that way.
Yeah.
You know, teaching to a test, that doesn't that it hasn't worked for how many years and all that stuff. Get these kids on something different. You know, they're working on a completely different level. I mean, kids today have technology. They're more technologically advanced. I mean, I grew up when computers were just coming out. So I'm a Gen Xer. So, you know, you see the technology. I saw the technology from the first computers I was doing was with punch cards all the way till now.
Oh my
But
God, remember that?
oh, dude, I the punch cards just it brings
Oh, you
it
took me
brings like
back a
a
long time. Ooh,
I remember walking with
chill in my
those
spine.
trays, just going, God, I hope I don't
Yeah.
fall because if I drop this tray, I'm screwed. But you know, learning old COBOL and Fortran and all that stuff to today, it's a completely different world. And you know, that's what you know really needs to be done. You know, you got to shake up things a little bit more. People are down on AI, and I saw a guy at New York Comic Con that had a comic book that was completely done through AI. All the
Yeah.
artwork, everything about it. AI is not going to come up with the story. You
Yep.
still have to have the creation. You have to
Right.
have that creation. AI is a tool that you can utilize to do those
Exactly.
things, and that's how you have to learn how to use the tool. You know, there used to be an old saying, knowledge is power, right? That was when the only people
Yeah. Right.
that could get an education were the ones that could afford books. But now I can pick up my phone and in 0.2 seconds I can look up open heart surgery and get YouTube videos on how to do it, how to, you know, I guarantee you don't want me doing open heart surgery on you, but I
But
can
I can
find
try.
out how to do it. So it's not just, you know, the knowledge and or the information is out there. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's you've got to learn how to grab those pieces and then assemble it. Those are the people that are going to really move forward in the technological society that we have today.
It's
Can you
Yes.
grab that information?
It's
Can
the
you grab all that
utilization,
data
right.
and turn it into useful information? And I think this is another way,
Right.
taking a medium of comics and things like that, and can you pluck things out of the air that pull people in and engage them more? And, something as simple as that, you might get a younger audience that now now it turns into, half the book
Yes.
turns into a cartoon for them. It's going to be, it'll draw them in more, and things like that. You want that younger audience, you've got to appeal to that younger audience, or lose them to
See,
Minecraft.
and what you're saying is,
I remember when
yeah,
Minecraft
and
first
you're,
came
and you're
out.
right about that,
Yeah.
especially with yeah. Oh my God. Like what you were saying is true, because you do have to keep up with innovations with the technology. And I will
Yeah.
say this much, because I did play with AI. I don't utilize it in my stuff, but I can see the potential of what it can do. And so I'll say this much. For people that think that this is just something that you can just no. You can create things with this, you can create whatever you want with it, but it's how you talk to the machine. Now,
Yes.
I will never say what I would say to it, because that's the key. The key is everyone's going to talk to it in a different way, and that's where, believe it or not, that's a new form of creation. We're just not up to that point yet. But I see this already with the writing, and like you said, it won't write for you. But I took something. Matter of fact, let me see. I was playing with this AI, and I took I pretty much took my story that I already wrote, and I put like a little bit of my introduction into an AI rewriter, and when it wrote, I was like, really, like, it's not gonna write for you. So if you have a basis of AD was gonna write that's good, it'll actually write you something really well. But over time, it'll start writing nonsensical, non-coherent speech. It won't follow. But if you give it like I just gave it a synopsis, I gave it this I'm trying to find the page, because when I read it, I was really impressed. I was like, wow, you know what? It actually wrote it quite well. But like you said, without having it's almost like, okay, I can't find it. This AI is almost like a new way of programming, if you can think about it like that. It's programming without having to use code. More of speech than anything else. More of picture and description. And the more description you give it, the more unique you can make anything. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know a guy that he had a story, and he was trying to shop it through Hollywood as a script. Now they need to have that script in a certain format. You can pay script writers to do that. And he said, you know what? Rather than spending the couple $1,000s that he would have had to do that, he and another guy sat down, and over the course of, a weekend or, a couple days, they had put it into the script that he had. They had put it into AI and used it as a tool that it rewrote it and in the format that they wanted it. So instead of spending thousands of dollars, him and somebody else spent a couple days learning how to do it, because it's all about what are the prompts that you have to put in and things like that. And they fed this in, and he got his script out in a format that he could now shop it to, the way that directors and studios want to see. So again, no matter what, are you going to have people that abuse things? Absolutely. I mean, the latest controversy with, CGC, when you have something, somebody's always going to be there to abuse it, especially if there's money to be made at it. Somebody's going to figure out a way to abuse it. But if you can use it in the right way, it could be a hell of a time-saving, money-saving tool for you. So
yeah, we've been workshopping it at school.
I'm just checking my corners on this book to make sure that it's still
just
legit.
to
I'm
kind of see like how AI can be used.
Everything looks see.
Yeah, we've been using AI at school just to write assessments. I've actually used AI to write rubrics for me, because it allows you to say, okay, I need a rubric that goes after this, this, and this. And it needs to be on a 4-point scale. And it comes up with roughly the right language. And trying to find the right language to write a rubric as a teacher and try to make it both student friendly, coherent, and actually go after what you want it to is not always the easiest thing. So having someone to kind of
No.
do that first immediate thinking for you takes probably about half an hour off your plate of that rubric, right?
Oh yeah.
And then you go back
think
in
about it
and
like
you
this, it's
tweak
like
it and
having
you
a
think
book-
about it and
It's like
Edit,
having an editor,
find it.
pretty much.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And it gets your thought process
I wish I
going
could
in
find this.
a direction. It might not be the right direction to start off with,
Yeah.
but it gets your thought process going in a way that you could take it to a different level. Right now we've got this curriculum and there's a couple units in it that just aren't the best for our group of students. So I was like, oh, let's take AI and see what it would do. How would it make a unit for this? Or if I say, okay, take this unit, but make the context of it like gaming or movies,
Yeah.
what would it do? And it actually came up with lesson plans and very not detailed, but very like outlined bullet points of what it would look like to get from here to here, the different steps of the way that you would take and all of that fun stuff. So it's definitely a great tool at many different levels, but again, don't abuse it.
Yeah. And
So,
I mean,
yeah.
you know, again, I think it's, you know, I use it at work. I had a client that said, "Hey, can you give me a real quick comparison of these two things?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." I fed both, you know, the data from both sources in, and it created a nice little checklist for me that I went in and had to, you know, adjust. But it saved me probably 2 hours worth of research
Yeah.
in being able to put. And I went in, it validated everything that was there because trust but verify, you know. But I went in and validated everything. But it saved me a tremendous amount of time of going through, you know, and doing this comparison by feeding. But again, you have to know how do you have to put the prompts in. You have to know how
Yep.
to feed the data in the
Yes.
way that you want it to,
Right.
because
Yep.
it will kick out a whole bunch of garbage and silliness.
Right.
And you know,
It's
schools are
programming
learning
in
very
a way that
quickly.
you gotta know how to talk to the machine.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
you know,
Yes.
schools are learning very quickly that, you know, kids that are going to, you know, on these sites and say, write my term paper, which kids are actually going back and reading the term paper to see if it's, you know, nonsense or not, because they're going, this is, yeah, you used AI on this because this is all garbage. Your first couple sentences were great, but by paragraph 4, you went off the rails here.
See, you would
And-
You would
solve
have been
that
better
problem
off
if you wrote your
plagiarizing.
papers out the old school
Yeah.
way. That's why you got to write
Yeah,
everything out. You get
It's
a
not
thing, right,
plagiarism,
then you
it's
write
just
it out.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plagiaristic nonsense. Oh man, I wish we had it like that growing up in school. Jesus, we had to actually write blackboards, disgusting.
We had to
chalk
go to an
everywhere,
actual,
dust
had
everywhere.
to actually use the bibliography and you know, go to use
Yeah,
the
oh my
Dewey
God,
Decimal
we had
System to the library
No,
and
we
find
had
the
it
actual
up.
book.
we had an obelisk, like a counting machine. I swear we had one in the classroom, and I was like, "What the hell?" We were still using that thing. I'm like, "Oh, it's so barbaric. You guys have no idea." Like this tech, I think people like us for Gen X. Shout out to Gen X. Yeah, people from Gen X know how to use this technology better than anybody else because we suffered. We didn't have anything like this growing up, so we actually had to learn. From I feel like this because you're a teacher, Chris. So maybe you can get what I'm saying. There's like an old school way of how we learned, and I'm not saying you're teaching anything new school or not, but it's not the way we were growing up. When we were growing up, no one had like, you know, you had your teachers, you did your homework, you did your schoolwork, but no one had the access to all this information and resources that you have now. So you couldn't even challenge what you were learning back then. If they told you the sun was red, then it was red, no matter what evidence.
Mhm.
No, you had no way to know this. So I see today, like when you see kids with this technology, I just feel like a lot of these kids, because they never had to learn a traditional, like when you guys were growing up in class, I mean, like I was, it was horrible. I mean, I would sit in the front of the class, not because I was the smartest kid, because I had horrible eyesight, but I became the smartest kid because I had horrible eyesight. Now you want to go to the back of the class, so I had to be up in the front, and I'm always looking, and so they're like, "Oh yeah, Mike. So what's the answer to?" I I can't
Yeah.
even see the damn board. Hold on. So what I'm saying is like things like that help me learn. So now when I got this tool of the internet, I was just like, man, look at this. Like we can just think about things that we could have used it for back then. And the same thing with the AI. That's how I think of AI too. When I'm playing with the tools, it's all about like from the things that I've learned, I know how to speak to this machine in a way where it'll prompt what you want. And I think that the kids that are growing up now, they have the technology, but they don't understand what they really have. They don't get it. Like you have the power in your hands to learn absolutely anything. Can you imagine that? If you were just sitting in your class, you're like, okay, I'm going to tune Chris's English class out. I'm going to learn about nuclear physics. Who the hell? Like you can just learn about anything now.
Yeah.
It's insane. And I just think that a lot
There's
of
a
kids just
YouTube
don't
video
know.
for it all.
Yeah, I just think that the kids just don't. I just think that for any generation, especially a young person, all this technology is so overwhelming. But you know, there's going to be a next generation that's growing up. They're calling them Gen Alpha. I'm hearing horrible things about them. Good for them. They're very aggressive. Good. Gen Alpha sounds like the rebirth of Gen X. Like you hear these, like I don't know if that's happening to you, Chris, in your schools, but I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos and you see these teachers crying about. They're talking about Gen Alpha. They don't listen. They don't do anything. But this is like Gen Z who are teaching Gen Alpha. It's like the young getting snaked by the younger. I love it. It's so funny. But
it's
I
really
say
interesting
because learn
because
technology.
2023 is one of the first years where Gen Z teachers were actually able to teach the current generation. Because Gen Z started in 1997.
Yes.
So they're at that like 25 years old where they can finally, and I mean, yeah, for the past 3 years, maybe, but like these 1997, 98s, 99s are now getting legit like long-term teaching jobs or full-time teaching jobs. And they're teaching students. And it's like, holy shit, this is the generation that we have to teach.
Yeah. I would never want to be a teacher only because I know that I would have been cursed with a whole classroom of kids like me. And that I honestly, I feel sorry.
I would have had to fight the whole class.
I apologize to every teacher I ever had. So.
I apologize to Miss Roslyn for breaking her leg. I apologize to Miss Roosevelt for the time she fell down the stairs. This was I was a horrible kid. Never mind. Oh, rest in peace, lady. That's all I'm gonna say. Well, I didn't kill her. She died of old age. I didn't kill her. That wasn't my fault. But she did break her leg in. I'll get to that another time.
That's why he got sent to the military.
Oh yeah, believe me. Everything that I told you that look at all the awesome things you do in your life. No, I believe in penance. I had to pay the price of all the bad stuff I did. So I made it up now. So listen, reform is the greatest thing in the world. I don't care if you've never been arrested or you're someone who went to jail for 20 years. You served your time. To me, that's honorable. You served your time, you're good. That's how life is. Yeah. We serve our time in different things. We served our time in the military. People serve their time in jail. Some people serve their times on jobs. But, you have to do the right thing. And when you make mistakes, you got to pay for those mistakes. And this is what human growth is about. Always understand 100%. It's okay to mess up, but you have to own up to it. If I don't care. I had a fight one time a couple years ago in my house. It's between two of my kids. Now, I'll be honest. I had nothing to do with it, but I took full responsibility for it because it's my house. And even though I wasn't around, it still happened under my roof. But then the next thing you do is you dole out. I won't say punishment and discipline, more like it was disappointment to them. And I think it hurt them worse than they're adults. I'm not going to hit nobody. But I'm just saying,
learning experiences.
It would hurt them worse than a belt would have hit them. It hurt them because you guys were disrespectful in your father's house. And that's what I did to them. And I really put that into them and they made them understand. Of course, nothing like that ever happened again. Everybody got along after that. But it was just an event that, you have to understand in a situation like that, you have to be in charge of your household. You have to be in charge of your life, but you also have to be ready to take accountability when shit goes wrong. You got to own up to it. And once you own up to something, then you can fix it.
My grandfather always said, never do or say anything you can't take credit for or admit to. So
Right. Well, I always say never volunteer information. Now that's a good one. Keep it close to your chest. It's like you're playing cards. You're not going to turn around and say, "Hey, I got 2 aces and a king. I'm about to run the river." No, you keep it to your chest. Never volunteer information. But yeah, I miss my grandfather. That's the best generation, the greatest generation. Shout out to you guys, whoever's left.
100%.
We learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from the greatest generation and the boomers, and I was glad to have been brought up during those two sects of generational knowledge that I feel like with us at least. I mean, we could pass this knowledge on, but it won't be the same. I think like Gen X is going to really hold that last. I feel Gen X is that last pure, old school, traditional, grew up in the middle class or poor, but you grew up in a country where, it was a different time. I mean, I don't want to say it was the best times or the worst times. It was just a time in our lives that I just feel like a lot of tradition and culture were taught to our generation. Like, it was always ingrained in us. Go out, go to school, get a job, learn a trade, buy a house, things like that. Like, you don't hear this anymore now because you can't even afford, you can't even tell your kids. Your kids, look, this is your kids. Don't worry, kids. I'm gonna leave you the house. There's no way they're gonna be able to afford a house. It's a different generation. So as I'm saying this,
100%.
he knows what I'm talking about. But the kids are like, wow, yeah, it was really a good time.
I tell my kids this all the time. Nobody's gonna give you anything. In life, nobody gives you anything. So don't expect. You're not owed anything. You're not. The Constitution says that you're guaranteed the pursuit of happiness. It's the pursuit. It's not guaranteeing happiness. You can pursue it. You may never become happy if you don't, that's why you've got to do the things that you love and love what you do. So, but, again,
if you're lucky enough to find a career that you can do what you love. Yeah.
And diverting it back, that's why I said, don't wait a lifetime to make a dream come true. If you want to go out and write a comic book, do it. Write your story. If you want to write a novel, write that novel. Somebody out there is going to, if you're writing it from life, if you're writing your, I 100% give that person the respect and everything for taking the time to create that. So it might not be for me. Just like Guillermo del Toro said, it's not for everybody.
Yep.
That show might not be, I'm not the audience for that show. There may be shows that I love that people don't like, but that's not, maybe they weren't the audience for it. So, hopefully, if people are interested, if you want to get Marcus, I got the A cover. I have a B cover. Nice. And then we have a spot foil, which is really cool.
Very cool.
The black is all like a hard matte. You can go to Swolger Publishing. I'll shoot the link up on the chat. Okay. But the Swolger Publishing for that, and then if you want the Jaff store exclusive, that's on Amazon or jaffcomics.com. So.
And you're out of Bethlehem, New York?
Bethlehem, PA, Pennsylvania.
Okay, PA.
Yeah. So we're real close to New York. It's about
close.
Lehigh Valley. We're like an hour-ish away, hour and a half away from New York. But
close to Philly?
Yeah, I'm about an hour away.
I'm about an hour away from Philly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's where we are. We're just a little north of Philly. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, like where I'm at, it's weird because like he know what I'm talking about. I could go to Staten Island and then go to Jersey, and it's weird because you just get to one little, I forget the actual bridge, but that one bridge just cuts you right into, like it just cuts like an hour off of your entire commute into Philly. So it's just like, I take that one road. I forget what it was though, but I go there a couple times a year. I mean, I'm a wrestling fan, so I may go there for WrestleMania next year. I gotta go. So
anytime I gotta drive down to Philly and I gotta hit the Schuylkill, man, I do not enjoy driving down to Philly at all.
No,
it takes forever. My son and I had to go down. My daughter was at Drexel. She's at Drexel, and we went down to help her move one time. And he and I got stuck, and the GPS said we were 4 miles away, but we were on the Schuylkill. We were 4 miles away. My son put on Deadpool, and we watched the entire movie before the car moved 8 feet. And I was just like, this is just awful.
Yeah, they had to have GPS with freaking no satellites out there. It's bad.
No, it's sitting there telling you you're
you're
5 minutes
you're
away.
talking
Yeah,
about
I'm not 5 minutes away. I'm an hour. I'm
You're like,
2
where am I
hours
going?
away.
This road's just
Yeah.
going.
That's what happens when we get snow up here in Rochester.
Man, so
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been up to Rochester a lot.
it's snowing now. You said what?
No, when
Oh.
we
Oh,
get
yeah,
snow up
Rochester's
here, there's
awesome.
times where you could turn a 10-minute car ride into probably about an hour.
Yeah, you're getting
It's
a
crazy.
lot of that lake effect. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember we had
All right.
a job up there a couple years ago. I was working on sets, and yeah, whole Rochester got snowed in, like a couple feet of snow. Well, I was
Yeah,
supposed to go.
right now we've got
early
no
that day,
snow, 50-degree
everybody
weather.
got
It's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's springtime. No need to go to Florida
Yeah.
anymore. We good. Just waiting for that
Li-
global warming to catch up to us.
Every time I mute myself, it's because my sump pump starts going and it goes right past my desk, and you can hear the whole thing going through the pipe.
Oh yeah.
And
That's all we've gotten is rain. I've had rain
Yeah,
for the past couple
it's-
days.
Yeah, when
I'm
you
like,
get the rain,
normally
you have
during
that
this time of
sound
year,
constantly.
I never hear that sound because
Yeah.
it's all frozen over. There's no water coming down in. You got the frost line, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's
crazy.
good though because that means you have a leakage coming in and it's doing its job, protecting
Yep.
your babies. It's protecting your babies. I got
But-
3 sub pumps in my basement. I'm not playing. You know, hey, I got a lot of stuff down there. I swear, I had a little bit of water coming up. Like we had a flash flood like about a year and a half ago, and I had water coming up to my basement. And I just renovated my whole basement. I'm like, where the hell is this coming from? It was a little tiny corner in the house. Literally, I had to. It was just like, I guess the water was seeping in from above, and it got into this little tiny crack. It was like the very corner of the house. I threw a rag on it. I was like, damn, okay, I'll get back and put something on it. The rag stopped it. And I was like, this is weird. I took some of that cement, the hydraulic cement, and I just threw it in there the next day. Yeah, I mean, you know, I do have 4 sub pumps, and I'm not playing because this is something that's serious. But none of them kicked in. It was just in one. It was in the one place that I never thought to even put a pump because it was a place I didn't think I needed one. But that flash flood showed me that I did have a vulnerability. Now, I haven't had a flash flood since, so I don't know how that water's gonna not come in. But if a hand towel held it all back, I think it's gonna be fine. But the weather's been crazy. It is.
We had a really weird one this spring where, like, right over here, right through the bottom of the floor, water just came up through.
Yeah.
And have no idea
that's
what happened, or it's just the
flash
hydrostatic pressure. The water just comes straight up through the cement. It's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I've got the gravity well behind me, the sump pump in another room over there, and all the water feeds to the gravity well, and then the sump pump takes the water from the backyard and feeds that around to the gravity well, and it's just it's crazy how the hell water works.
Oh yeah.
They always say water finds a way.
Comics in 2023. What was the biggest comic that you collected or picked up, or like what was that one you really remember from this year?
Definitely from this year, I would definitely have to say was Zdarsky's Daredevil run, and then the Devil's Reign event. I thought that was really good. How it fed into the end of the Punisher, the Punisher run. I really enjoyed that. You know, I thought all of those kind of pieced together very well. So for the most part, I would have to say that was probably my top. Second would probably be, you know, I've always been an X-Men fan, and the current run, I really like the way that Hickman, you know, drew or wrote the X-Men, and you know the House of X, Powers of 10, and then how these stories have led up to the Fall of X now. So you know, I thought they've had a pretty solid run on X-Men right now too. So I would definitely say those two. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been picking up Venom ASM religiously for the past 5 years. But honestly, the one that's like stuck with me recently and I just caught up on it, has been Harley Quinn. I've
Okay.
loved what they've been doing
Harley
with
Quinn,
Harley
yeah.
Quinn between the animated series comics, her main issues, and then I'm going to start reading the Black, White, and Redder pretty soon and getting into that. And I mean, these books are just the way that they're portraying this character is so much fun, and like you never know which way it's going to go. The other one is Moon Knight. Moon Knight's been a hell of a read for this past run. I think it started back in 2021.
Mark Spector's done. That's it. There's
Yeah,
no
and like
Spector.
this series has just been
That's
amazing.
There's no coming back.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Dead. I mean, I read the whole series. It's awesome. I'm not going to spoil it though. But he's dead.
Moon Knight. I would
spoiled
definitely say Moon Knight and the Hulk. The recent run on the Hulk have been phenomenal. Like Donny Cates' Hulk was awful. It was not. That was very ungood. But the new what they're doing with the new Hulk, Ghost Rider, and which just ended, and Moon Knight, those three have been fantastic this past year. Like the writing on those have been really, really good.
What about you, Mike? What have you been reading lately?
I mean, well, it's funny because I'm going through everything I've been reading, and I'm mostly into the Spider-Man stuff. For some reason, I just love Spider-Man. I collect weird. I collect in a way where I collect Spider-Man. I buy comics bundled and stuff. But I tell you, the ones I've liked, this is a little stack of what I. Let's see, Spider-Man India like that. I didn't really care for the Death of Miss Marvel, but I figured that was an essential one to pick up. Got some silks, that silk. So Miles Morales Spider-Man's a different variant. So I've been picking up like story-wise. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I mean, I do like the X-Men, Avengers, Eternals. But since King in Black, I really haven't really been feeling anything lately. I've just been picking up covers and just keeping up with the original, the Amazing Spider-Man, all my Spider-Man stuff. But I gotta be honest, out of all the comics that came out this year, the one that really did it for me, I ain't gonna lie, this is my favorite freaking comic. That is my favorite comic this whole freaking year. And I love it. This is my number one. So guys, come to SimiVerseComics.com. I got these on sale. That's the company. And yeah, I'll be honest.
The king of shameless plugs.
I'm not really happy with a lot of comics this year because I don't know. Maybe it's because I just started writing but I'm still keeping up with the collection. I mean,
I'll trade you one of my favorites too.
My really last favorite. Yes, I've got. We're gonna. Don't worry. I got you. I'm gonna give you two. I want that other copy too. But you know what? I am gonna do this soon. This is for next year, so I'm gonna make this announcement now. I'm gonna make 50 of these, but this is gonna be a special Chromium edition. Same cover, but it's gonna be a Chromium edition. I wanted to do that originally, but it's just so everything becomes so overwhelming. Like I'm happy that I got the book out there. That to me was the most, I won't say hardest, most difficult, but the most telling for me. Like that's what made me feel like, okay, it's here. Like I had to have this out before Comic-Con. We ran around Comic-Con like maniacs. We got to see a bunch of people. I mean, I was talking to David Nakayama. He's one of my friends. Shout out to you, David. Yo, you like that Stanley I mixed up for you today? Yeah, you did. So I just wanted to have this out before then, and I got it out. And like I said, I gave myself a B. He thinks it's a B. I agree with Professor. It's gonna be my next comic could be an A. And it's just something like I said. When we were talking about the comic, I didn't realize. Yeah, it was like pretty much me and someone else did all the work on a comic that usually, like what you would say, it's so many people that are involved. You get it's a whole team of people. Like I started with 2, now I have 4 for the next book. Because I have an editor. I needed an editor. I mean, I didn't do a great job of editing. I was just so caught up in. I found myself doing so many different things I never thought I could do. I'll put it like that, especially when it came to actually editing the photos and putting everything in it, trying to get everything sized out right. It's just, you don't even think about these things. You're like, all right, let's draw. put some words down, and they would just put it in a comic. No,
It's a comic.
No,
Once you
it's
have pictures and
it's
words, you're good.
And there's
Yeah,
always
that's it. That's
there's
what you
always
need.
one
That's-
thing you forget though. There's always one
Yeah.
thing you
oh, you're
forget.
telling me about it. Oh my god. There's like in my first book, yeah, I forgot something really major. I did make it up though. I put it in book 2, but I put it in a way that it won't look like it was left out of the last book. But yeah. It's crazy. Like, that's why like in book 2, I'm actually taking my time. So I'm hoping for my own personal company. I do have another book. I have 2 comics I have started already. Well, 3. That was Symbiotic is the first one, and I got 2 more that I already started that I'm going to continue with that. So hoping to have that first issue of both of those by next Comic-Con, and I'm hoping to have at least, well, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have the whole story of Symbiotic from volume 1 to 6 done by Comic-Con. I'm going to try to get a table, sit and live in Artist Alley, and we're just going to say hi to all our friends out there, and hopefully this takes off. And like I said, I love meeting new guys like you, Scott. We're going to definitely trade some books. I love this stuff. Oh, my God. And it's funny because I'm actually writing a story, right? It's kind of similar to what you do. It's called, I already copyright all my stuff. It's called, I made a story called it's called the Space Spartans versus the Space Romans. And it's supposed to be about thousands of years in the future that these 2 empires never died on Earth. And they pretty much, one takes over one quadrant of the universe, the other takes over the other quadrant of the universe. They kind of live in like a constant state of galactic war, because even though they are conquering they want to conquer each other, but something about the story, the way I wrote it, that they both have a technology that's hidden from the other that they're afraid to. It's like having a nuclear bomb. Like they know they have this ultimate weapon, but they don't use it against each other because the weapon's supposed to be so bad it could rip the very fabric of reality. So allegedly. That's what the story's kind of about. But I like what you say because it kind of reminded me of my story. I was like, wow, this is great. I see a lot of potential with your story. And I love the fact that you use the Spear of Destiny. That's one of my favorite stories. They call it the Spear of Destiny, the spear that actually stabbed Christ. I mean, I've seen shows and different stories where they had, like, the Nazis had the Spear of Destiny at one point. This is why they were able to take over. Like, they were making stories based on, like, whoever had the Spear of Destiny pretty much was using that power, and that power that would come conquest, Well,
the Nazis did have an entire division of the SS that was dedicated. Yes. They were dedicated to doing nothing but looking for religious artifacts, and the Spear of Destiny was honestly on the top of their list
of
things to find. So they were looking for any kind of they went into India. They had taken the Mahabharata. They were looking for the Vimanas, the flying Vimanas, and things like that they had seen. I mean, anything that had any kind of of weapon or flying, anything in history that they could find, they wanted to get their hands on it. Anything that they could find throughout history. And, that's just, they've said a lot about that in different movies and stuff like that. So I always thought that was always quite a neat thing. So there is a part of in Marcus, you find out Cassius was with the Nazis, and that's where a big piece of that comes in.
Yeah, you see, I can see
issue,
that.
Issue 3 is going to be really, it'll have some good stuff in there. So
I like that. You see, that's what I'm talking about. And this people who watch this, go create. It's not hard. Just
it all ties together.
Inspired by.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. But I love it, man. This is like a great life, people. Write, please. But don't write the garbage that Marvel and DC's putting out. Please stay away from that. Let's write some excellent stuff. Because trust me, Marcus,
in all honesty,
I'll tell you right now. I mean,
some of the best comics that I've read
competing with the rest of the world are independents lately. I'm telling you that too.
So some of the best comics I've read lately are independents.
Yeah.
Geiger, Jane American, Marcus, Symbiotic, like the stories inside of them are not
the Deviant. Dope.
They're not chained up to 60 years of lore. And I feel like,
Right.
yes, Spider-Man's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, I love reading Spider-Man. Even when the story isn't great, I still enjoy reading it because I
Mhm.
love seeing what they're doing with the character. I love seeing how
Yeah,
the
they're still
character's
doing something with
changed
him.
over the past 5 or 6 years that I've been
Yeah.
reading him. As well as looking back at back issues and going back 20, 30, 40 years and seeing what they used to do with him. But then sitting there and saying, okay, let's see, what could you possibly do with like just random characters? We Live, the Miranda brothers. They took this whole different idea, and I was never expecting the ending. Like, I don't spoil that ending because it is one of the craziest, most interesting endings
That's good.
I've ever read.
Yeah.
Like, they wrote that beautifully. And then they took it and they brought it to volume 2, and volume 2 was amazing. Out of Body was another one that was just so well done, so well drawn. And it's like, we have all of these amazing writers and artists, and even the letterers in some of these independent books. You can tell that they
Yeah.
really put a ton of thought into it, because with Marvel, all you got to do is sit there and say, okay, well, we'll just do the same thing we've been doing for the past 20 years. It's worked, so why not just keep lettering that way? But then
think
you
about
see
it
the
this
way
way.
that
Those independents, if you don't have a good compelling story, if you don't have those different things, nobody's going to buy it.
exactly.
Marvel is always going to sell their issues because there's going to be people that say they're completionists. I want to
Yes.
have
Yes.
every issue of Daredevil. I want to have every issue of this or whatever.
Yep.
So they're going to sell way more than most independents do, just out of people's compulsion to be completionists.
Yes.
That's why when you look at an independent, those storylines, they've got to be hitting it on all cylinders, because if
Oh,
you
yeah.
miss, like, Marvel can have amazing, they can have an amazing Spider-Man run, and if it's 50 issues, 35 of those could be garbage,
Yep.
filler issues, and they're still going to sell. If you have an independent, if Marcus doesn't hit on every issue, only because it's 6 issues, but if I don't hit on every issue, people are going to lose interest in that book immediately
Yep.
because it's not that big one, right? So, that's where you've got to write for your survival. On independents have to write for their survival, and that's why I think they they have a little bit more. You see a little bit better storyline because they're not shackled with 90 years or 100 years of backstory and everything else, but you've got all this, you've got innovation going, you've got, people pushing the envelope on those stories and everything else. So
Definitely.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and that does make sense because I feel what you're saying resonates to me as well because in my company, like I have my artist, right? And I explain to him, and I say this to anyone who does art for me and whatnot. I mean, I'm the kind of person that I believe I don't want to have like a time. I kind of gave him like a timeline, but I was like, look, I want you to really do this when you feel it. Like, you're an artist.
Yeah.
When you really feel like you want to do this. In other words, I'm not rushing. Take your time. Because when we rush, it's not going to come out good. But when we take our time, we can refine everything we're doing. And I have that approach to make it like eventually when all my books are done, I'll be mass producing them everywhere. No big deal. I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about like what Scott was saying. Like, I want to get everything right. You have to get everything right. Like, like even with this, like when I was thinking about doing covers, right? This was Waylon's idea. So shout out to you, Waylon, because I had a different cover in mind. But he's like, I always wanted to do, the Secret Wars 8 cover. So I was like, do it. And it came out so amazing. Now that shot us into other covers. So like, I know, like when I showed this book, and this is one thing that people always know is that like we love the cover, we love the back because it's a 2-sided cover. And I put mine, and you're gonna get it like this too. When I said it to you, Scott, I have a clear backing board with this as well. So when the comic is sitting in there, you could see both sides without actually having to take it out. And the best part about this is it's a reader. I made this with the highest quality, so you could actually touch this. It's not like crumbly paper. You can touch this. If you really feel like you want to, rub it off, you take a little tissue. But this is a reader. It's made to. I made it. Okay, when he printed them, I'll show you guys. Look. Do you see that? Do you see like it looks like it's open in the middle? That's the spine. Yeah. I told him don't press them hard all the way. I said I want you to keep them fluffy. And he goes, why? I said because when my readers open it, it's going to be easy for them to just open up to it, and it'll just sit there and be held open real nicely without any effort. So it's a reader. I made it as a comic, but I also made it so that you could read it and you don't have to worry about messing it up. If you really want to keep it in pristine condition, you can actually read it.
It's heavier quality paper. Yeah.
And I put a lot of it is. It's the highest. It's the same cover. The paper that you see on the cover is the exact same cover for the exact same paper for the entire book. That's why I made it like that. I mean, of course, trust me. When I go into mass production, because I want to make an affordable copy, because I charge like $10 for these. But when I go into mass production of doing these, because I wanted to first of all make a collector piece. Like I wanted to make something that was high quality. Like I'm making this for new readers, but I'm also making this for a niche audience of collectors. They'll look at this and be like, yes, this is a good piece I would like to have in my collection. But also the story counts. The story is important as well. But like you were saying, Scott, that's what we're trying to do now at Simiverse Comics. We're trying to hit every single note that we can, and we are all about criticism. I told Chris to tear up this book. He tore it up for me. I said, don't take it easy on me. I don't want people taking it easy on me. No, tell me exactly what I did wrong so I can fix it, But I'll be honest, I did it with 2 people. Now I got 4. I got an editor now. I have a letterer, Nico Artist Supreme. This is the same person that did this painting. Wait, hold on. See that painting right there? That's the person that's going to be lettering my believe me, this artist I have is crazy good. But this artist is going to be doing another book for me, but this artist is going to be lettering for my next book, which is book 2. So I'm going to have a letterer, editor. Me, I'm going to be doing the rest of it. Same thing I was doing, story, writing, editing photos, getting everything right, and Waylon's going to continue doing the art. So now I got 4 people. Maybe by the next book I'll have a whole staff of people. I mean, I try to keep it as small as I can because I mean,
it grows quick.
I'm selling stuff, but I'm not like right now I'm not even thinking I need to make X amount of money. I'm more or less trying to, because I'm so new to the scene. This is only a couple months for me. It's not even like I've been out for it's a couple months. I'm just trying to get my brand out there and my whole scene out there and people to be familiar with me. And then I feel in time, because like I said, I've had people read my story. A lot of people liked it. And they said, oh, we see the potential in this. And believe me, from how I ended the first book, I wish I could just show you guys what I did. I'm so excited. What I'm saying, Scott. You don't have the whole beginning, middle, and end to your story. You just want to just show people, but you can't. But it's so excited. That's how I feel. I feel like I have this whole story, and it's going to be so good. And when we get to the end of it, it's just going to be all 6 of the books. They're all going to line up together. It's all going to make sense. And it's just going to be something that's going to be great. I feel. I mean, and I have confidence enough in my skills of writing to pull this off, indeed. And like I said, it's just something that I found to be very. I could have probably done this a couple years ago, but I just feel like, this was my time to do it in life. And, I was fortunate enough to be in a position to actually make my vision come through in reality. I forget, I got it on the damn shirt. I put it on merchandise now and stuff, I'm really trying to I don't know. I just got this whole craziness about it. I feel like I'm this crazy circus person running around with a bunch of stuff under the tent, and you just come in and see all my craziness. That's how I feel. But I also feel like this is the spirit of writing for me and my spirit of life anyway. I try not to be if you're I know a lot of people who are happy. I know a lot of people who are sad, depressed, and I try not to be. I always try to say life. Like we were talking about earlier. I wrote a song. It was about Kurt Cobain back in the day, and it was a line that I'll never forget because I always said it when he killed himself. I felt like I was asking myself, why did you kill yourself? Because you felt it was better to burn out than fade away. And I was just thinking to myself, yeah, that would make a nice song. So I just started saying, you should have fought your sorrows. You should have tried to hold on and stay until tomorrow when you could have found another way to deal with the pain. But now it is too late as they commence your body to the grave. So I wrote a whole song about that too. And things like that really like, when you see things like that, for musicians especially and artists, like, you know, some people who create, they create from a place of pain and misery as well, you know, like, and this is why, like, honestly, I say words are the most powerful thing in the universe, by the way. Whoever don't understand this is why they call spelling. Never talk bad about yourself. Your body doesn't know the difference. You're spelling yourself. That's why it's called spelling. Words are the most powerful thing in the world. But also your perception of reality shapes your words. So if your reality is of a bleak existence, then your words are going to shape to be as such. You know, if you went through a bad experience and you saw bleakness, then yeah, that's your reality, what you see. The point of the whole point I'm trying to make is that through all that, you have to see a path through whatever pain, whatever suffering you're going through. And once you find that pathway through, that's how you become a survivor. That's how you become, you know, a person of substance, that you've made it to the next level. Because some people, I just feel like they just become so bogged down with problems and you know, life and whatever happened to them in the past. I mean, they just don't see no way out. And I don't think that's the case. You know, I mean, taking one's life is not the answer for me. I would just say, like, always try to look for happiness in your life, no matter how hard it gets. I mean, there's people I know who have lived their lives totally never going to pain. And I know people who suffered every day in their lives as well. And I look at this dynamic of two different constructs and I try to imagine, okay, where am I at? I'm in the middle, kind of. I'm that person that I didn't grow up like really privileged, but I didn't grow up poor. But also now, as I am, I guess because the way I grew up, my mindset was to be about positivity. And if I can't do something, or if I fail at something, you didn't fail at it. You just got to do it again until you succeed. And that's it. And that's what I loved about the military. One in there did your thing. Hey, listen, there were guys that could do 100 pull-ups. I was doing them. There were guys that could do 100 sit-ups, push-ups. Guys that couldn't do anything, you know? Guys couldn't do one push-up. And then they look at you doing 5 push-ups. That's your battle buddy. I'm like, oh God, I gotta drag this guy around with me.
So my last question of the night, it's kind of a 2-part question. When are we going to see book 2 of Marcus? And are you going to be doing like a Kickstarter for it, or is it just going to kind of hit the shelves?
Yeah, there will be a Kickstarter the same way that we did for this one, on swoldierpublishing.com. We will have, you know, different packages. Reggie's put together, you know, different things. I think with this book, we had, you know, there were copies of Carmen's book that were in packages, and we had Carmen sign them at New York Comic Con and stuff like that. So yeah, there will be a Kickstarter. It'll be on Swoldier Publishing. But right now, I'm hoping we've gone through a set of edits. We should be starting the pencils and everything probably within the next month or so.
Nice.
So hopefully, we had a little bit of a backlog because of the holidays and everything. And then they're also, the artist and the letterer were on another project, so I was kind of waiting for them to finish up that. So hopefully within, I want to say probably within the next 2 to 3 months at the most, we should have issue 2. So
excellent.
All
right.
Cool.
So let us know when that hits. We'd love to get you on again and promote that, especially promoting the Kickstarter, making sure that we get the word out to as many people as possible, because this is definitely a comic that hit close to home for me, being close to people who were in the military, as well as just, I mean, Roman Empire is my jam. My wife actually hates it. She goes, how often do you think of the Roman Empire, that whole TikTok thing?
Every day.
Yep. And I was like, honestly, it comes up more often than you think. And she goes, no, it doesn't. I was like, I swear to God, at least like 3 times a week, like at the least. I think, ooh, that was part of the Roman Empire, like just out of the blue. And like this comic, I love the history behind it. I'm a huge history buff too. Cool. So I loved being able to dive into this, the historical fiction, the historical bibliography, or Bibleography. I don't know.
Biblical.
but the biblical aspect of it, and being able to see like how this plays out in modern times. And I can't wait for issues 2 through 6. This is going to be an amazing run of comics. Very excited for it.
Well, thank you very much
Nice.
for the kind words. I can't wait. Definitely can't wait to have it out there, and I'll make sure you're on the top of the list to get it when it comes out.
Sounds good. Thank you so
Cool.
much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week, Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern. I can't even imagine what's going to come out about CGC between now and then.
Yeah.
Guarantee that's going to
Oh
be
my
in the
God.
news and part of our streams for at least the next 3 weeks.
Hold the gate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, hey,
Have a great
thank
night.
you so much for having me on.
Definitely.
So
Anytime.
Take care, guys.
I'll see you all next year. Take care,
Yeah.
everyone.
See you guys.